Okay, now checking for occiput, we can screen it quickly. Even though this is not the primary direction of subluxation, I can screen it by tilting it. Mastoid in C1 doesn't close on the right for him, so that tells me it's a right occiput. That's the RS, that's the middle component of the listing. The most common finding in adults is actually posterior. So I'm going to turn him this way. So the skull would be posterior like this. To test that, I've got to glide it anteriorly. Now I'm just holding the head between my thenars. I'm going to isolate it to the right condyle and glide P to A. As soon as I feel restriction, to test the end plane, wow, he's stuck. He's not going A, so that means he's posterior. He's a PS. It's on the right, so he's a PS RS. Now if I were going to check A to P, I'm going to contact him up here, supraorbital ridge. I'm using my hypothenar here, and I'm using this hand, and I'm sort of picking up the back of the skull on that side. I'm going to isolate to the right and press A to P. If it won't go posterior, I'm pressing with this hand. If it won't go posterior, that means it's caught anterior, and we consider it an AS condyle. All right, now to do that, looking from the front, all I have to do, checking P to A glide, tilting him to the right, gliding P to A. See that? I'm trying to isolate the movement up here. I'm not taking his whole neck in. I'm rolling his head. P to A glide. A to P glide. Isolate, tuck A to P. It's not pressing down, it's pulling back. A to P glide. He's got a lot of give right there. Now the last piece is figuring out if there's any theta Y malposition or restriction. So I've got my fingers between mastoid and C1, my middle tip of my middle finger. It's all I'm doing is feeling that. Push the SCM forward or back, whatever works best for you to feel the contacts. As I turn his nose to the left, I'm looking for the mastoid. How well does it pivot forward? I got a fair amount of movement right there. The mastoid moves pretty well. On this side, it just kind of sits there. It really doesn't do very much. So this mastoid won't come forward. That makes the right mastoid, the one I'm going to be interested in, since he's a PS-RS, that makes that right mastoid anterior. Right? So this side felt posterior, it wouldn't come forward well, so that makes the right side an anterior. If this side, my right side, wouldn't come forward well, that would be the posterior side. And so that put the whole listing together. He had a P to A glide restriction, right lateral flexion restriction, and in this case, a right rotation restriction. Okay? So the P to A glide's the PS, the right lateral flexion's the RS, and the RA is that right rotation restriction, the condyle relative to atlas.